Bitcoin is showing some significant weakness, retesting the 200 moving average for the first time since 62,000. Will the buyers be able to push the price back upwards? Are we going to see more downward price action for Bitcoin? And what are the key levels you should be paying attention to? These are the questions we're answering in the video today. Let's jump on in. Okay, MegaWhale team, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for tuning in. I hope you're all having a fantastic day. In today's video, we are doing a deep dive into the macro and the short-term price action for Bitcoin, discussing the recent retest of the 200 EMA on the 4-hour chart, the first time since October 11th, 2024. We are also discussing the recent breakdown of the monthly uptrend depicted by the black diagonal trend line, the key levels we could see reversals develop from, the possibility of continuations lower, and exactly what Bitcoin needs to do to see a reversal. We'll also be going over the macro charts, Bitcoin dominance, and very briefly touching on the altcoin market. Before we get into it, smash that like button, hit that comment button, and subscribe to the channel. We post daily videos of Bitcoin focusing on the facts, the data, the technical, and the structural information. No hype, no BS, no emotion, pure raw TA. If that is the kind of content you are interested in, join us on Telegram. This is the first link down below. You'll get access to charts, updates, videos, educational posts, news events, and everything you need to stay in the loop with cryptocurrency with Bitcoin and the relevant economic news. And if you are interested in taking your trading to the next level, join us over in VIP, where we post trading setups with exact entry prices, exact targets, exact stop losses, trade justification, exclusive analysis, and so much more. You'll also get access to all of our group chats, our general chat, our trading chart and education chat, our daily video, our help, and our news chat. Check it out. With over 700 members. You can find out more information by clicking the pinned comment, by clicking my name to get access, or these two links to see our entire 50+ month trading track record, or a video showing you inside the channel itself. Check it out and let's dive on in. So as we can see, Bitcoin has continued toward the downside, breaking below the major, and this is a very important level, the major uptrending diagonal trend line depicted by that black trend line. This was a representation of the trend for Bitcoin over the past month and a half. And we've also seen now, as a consequence of a breakdown from a level, we have seen a loss of the POC level at 99K, and we have retested the 200-day moving average, the 200 EMA, for the first time since all the way back at 66K, and since we broke above it all the way back on the 11th of October. So we are definitely starting to see some massive amount of weakness over here in the charts, and officially the price action is now actually looking bearish. If we take a look at our 2023 fractal, and this is a video we did about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we discussed the possibility that we were copying a fractal from 2023 of December. We can see that the price action is essentially following suit absolutely perfectly in comparison to that fractal. I'm going to bring it up on the screen over here. We can see we had this flash correction. We'll show you this flash correction, only to then see a rally upwards towards the end of the year into a brand new all-time high, which we had actually seen that, then to see a correction back to sweep our lows of that liquidity wick. So at the moment, while we remain underneath this diagonal uptrend, we are expecting the price to come into this $90,000 region. That is our expectation moving forward, while we are sitting underneath the 99 POC and this diagonal uptrend. Again, the fractal isn't playing out perfectly. History doesn't always repeat exactly, but it does appear to rhyme. So we are seeing a very similar reaction in that price action as to what we saw in 2023. We'll come back to our broader analysis in just a moment, but moving over to the market data, we can see that 24-hour volume and liquidation have seen a little bit of a jump toward the upside, with liquidations reaching $1 billion. Absolutely insane, with 845 million coming from long positions and the remainder coming from shorts. Volume crossing 412 billion, up 17% for the past 24 hours. Now, if you watched our prior videos, you will know we were predicting one final move upwards for Bitcoin to that $106.5 to $108,000 region before we then saw a pullback. Of course, the pullback has gone much, much lower than we anticipated, but we have now seen that pullback and we have to shift our bias accordingly. So congratulations if you actually executed that move and caught that rally. You would have actually got out at the local top for Bitcoin, and that is something to be happy about regardless of what happens. Moving over to the DXY, we can see the DXY is still showing significant strength, and we discussed this in immense detail in yesterday's video, discussing why the DXY is showing strength, and it all comes down to the shift in perceived systematic risk as a consequence of the statements from Jerome Powell in the Federal Reserve press conference. Specifically, the main overarching narrative is that even though we have seen interest rate reductions, they are moving into 2025 with a cautious outlook, not confirming or denying that we will see more interest rate reductions, only really confirming two. And the confirmation of but two interest rate reductions is not nearly enough to give the market and market participants confidence in the future potential for explosive parabolic movements in the risk asset climate. So we've seen most traditional assets and the cryptocurrency market go risk off as money has moved back into the dollar, pushing its relative strength up. Hence the DXY rising, hence the markets pulling back. Looking at the S&P 500, not looking very good. We have broken down from the first higher high level we have seen in the entire structure. If you've been following the channel, you would know I flipped bullish on the S&P 500 right over here, April 2023. I have told you, I remained bullish the entire time. From here onwards, every single video I was telling you my target is $6,000. $6,000 religiously every video. We told you that we were creating these highs, and we came down to retest these highs. We create a new high, we do not retest the high. We create a new high, we come down and retest the high. We create a new high, we come down and retest that high. But at no point had we broken below one of these new developed highs, one of these higher highs. At no point did the future price action actually drop back below these high points until now, creating a new high, and we have now dropped below that high point. This is the start of a reversal for the S&P 500. Now, will it turn into a macro downtrend? That is up for debate. Of course, it is just the start of a reversal, but this is, according to our structural price section over here, according to what we've seen historically, this is the start of a downtrend, the start of a reversal in the S&P 500, and it is something that I am happy that, we called the 6,000, we got to 6,000, we're out of the 6,000, and now we're sitting sideline waiting to see what happens next. Of course, if we are able to sustain above 5,700, I would be pretty optimistic for the future for a reversal, but if we do drop below that 5,700 level, it's going to look very, very dire. So it's looking like a reversal is starting toward the downside. It is not really going to have much macro implications yet. Only if this 5,700 level is lost will we see macro implications. Before we get into the crux of today's video and Bitcoin's analysis, go ahead and sign up to BitGet, BitUnix, or BingX with the links down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45%, and you'll support me making this content and support yourself in your trading journey. We'll play an ad and we'll jump into the video. If you are looking for a new exchange or just want to support the channel, sign up to BitUnix with the link down below. You'll get a lifetime trading fee discount of 15%, which can build up to 45% based on your trading volume, as well as access to a bonus reward center, and of course, all of the exclusive campaigns we run on this exchange. You'll also get access to BitUnix being a non-KYC exchange, meaning you can sign up from anywhere in the globe without regulations. And most importantly, I only promote exchanges I trust and I use. As you can see, I trade on BitUnix very regularly, being the highest VIP level with over $500 million in trading volume for the last 30 days. And lastly, if you were interested in signing up to our other two exchanges, BingX or BitGet, you can also do that via the links down below. You as well will get the 15% trading fee discount and everything else that comes with it. Go ahead and sign up. Thank you for supporting. Let's jump back in. Okay guys, let's go ahead and jump into it, and we'll start very briefly on Bitcoin dominance in the altcoin market and then jump into Bitcoin. Now, if you're in the VIP channel and you've been following the content, you will know that I have been sidelined on altcoins ever since the 14th of December. You can see over here, I said I'm personally all out of spot. I'm sidelined to Christmas, just waiting and chilling in cash. And the reason I did that was, number one, my personal risk tolerance and the way I trade facilitated that movement. I did not make that decision based on macro structures. I definitely did not make that decision based on what I thought altcoins are going to do. I simply like to take profit. That is how I trade as per the 4-year cycle, as per the altcoin season. None of the invalidations have been met for those yet. If we're looking and trading altcoins based on the altcoin season, according to historical data, according to what we saw in 2022, in 2021, the altcoin season has not yet been invalidated. So if you're a macro trader, if you're a macro investor, if you're looking for the long term, I don't believe this is the end for altcoins. I certainly don't see that in the charts, but for me personally, I like to de-risk into Christmas. I do that every single Christmas as I usually take 2 weeks away from trading, and that is just how I usually trade. I got lucky, it lined up with the correction, but that is just what I like to do. Now, as you can see on this chart, historically, the altcoin season starts when we see 3 things. Number 1, we see Bitcoin create a local top. Okay, and that generally happens after we break out of the prior all-time high for Bitcoin, the first parabolic leg upwards. We create a local top. At the time of which we create a local top, we see Bitcoin dominance tank. And when Bitcoin dominance starts to drop, at the same time that local top is created, the altcoin market breaks through that dead cat bounce high. And we can see we then enter a altcoin season. The altcoin season historically lasts around 18 weeks. We are currently week 5 into the altcoin season, and we saw a fantastic beginning to altcoin season. There's no doubt about that. We saw some coins do 1,000%. We saw some coins do 500%. We saw some coins do 200%. Pretty much every single coin at least doubled if you entered upon the breakout of 840 billion on the total 3. But we have now seen a pretty major correction for the broader markets, and that is a consequence of the market moving risk off as a consequence of Jerome Powell's statements, and that is mainly what we are seeing causes downward selling pressure. In my opinion, the next trigger point for altcoins to see the next leg up will be the 1.13 trillion. As we said in our prior videos, for altcoins to enter that next leg toward the upside, which we would call the final leg upwards, we need to see 1.13 trillion break, and in my opinion, breaking that will be the trigger for altcoins to perform well again. Alternatively, if we see the altcoin total 3 drop below 840 billion, that in my eyes will be an invalidation of the altcoin season. The reason I say that is because historically, we did not see a drop back below this level ever again. You can see we actually held above that level, and we are still holding above that level. So I would not like to see the total 3 drop back below this region. If we do, that would be horrible for altcoins, and it would invalidate this structure for continuing onwards, which erodes the overall narrative and theory we have developed for altcoin season. So that is something I'll be watching very closely for. As per Bitcoin dominance, we have seen Bitcoin dominance break back through the downtrend, which is horrible for altcoins, of course. As we mentioned in yesterday's video, in any time of uncertainty or fear, we generally see speculative assets die off first. And we posted this in our Telegram group. We told you guys, and I will just quote myself in a second over here. We said, I'll say it again, not expecting much for altcoins for the rest of the year. December is usually bad for altcoins. PPI came in hotter. Rate decisions around the corner. Anytime there is any degree of indecision, money generally exits the most speculative assets in the market to go to more secure. This is why Bitcoin dominance has risen. This is why altcoins are getting wrecked in the light of the recent press conference from Jerome Powell. And that data that came out, no one knew was coming. Jerome Powell rug pulled the market in essence, right? Let's move over to the Bitcoin price action. There are a few things I'm watching. Now I am taking I've said already, the whole year, particularly since we broke into 96 where I initially sold my Bitcoin, a cautiously optimistic approach. I am not macro bearish on Bitcoin, but I'm definitely cautiously optimistic, and I'm simply just scalp trading Bitcoin, and I will continue to do so. While we sit underneath this diagonal uptrend, I am expecting Bitcoin to go lower. It is simple as that. While we sit under the diagonal uptrend, I expect Bitcoin to go lower. My lower targets I have declared, and I have stated many times on this channel, I am watching my gray boxes. These are areas of both price support and demand. We're watching these liquidity levels. First and foremost, 95,000. Secondly, 91,000. Thirdly, 89,000. And our last major one, 86,000. Do I think all of these will be reached? I do not. But do I think we will see some of them? Well, while we remain under this diagonal uptrend, I do believe there is more room for the downside for Bitcoin to go. Will that happen immediately? I do not believe so. If we take a look at this VRPV range here, we can see we are now in a massive cluster of volume, and we had this prior historical consolidation right over here. This is going to be a period of consolidation for Bitcoin. It is more likely we see some sideways chop develop over here before we then make this next move toward the downside or toward the upside first. So I do think the mass volatility for Bitcoin's downward movement has mostly subsided. I think that will pick up again if we do drop below 94,000. But in terms of this massive aggressive selling pressure, I believe that has been actually completed now. It is more likely we move into a gradual slow decrease while we remain above, or should I say below, this diagonal trend line. Now, for the buyers to get back in control, we need to establish a break of this lower high. We'll come back and discuss that in a second. But there is one more thing I want to be talking about, and that is the 200 moving average. If we delete everything on the chart really quickly, we can see, let's just delete everything over here. The 200 moving average represented by this blue line, the last time we broke the 200 moving average was back in October 2024. That was a price point of 62,000. We have actually been sitting above the 200 moving average this entire time. A loss of the 200 moving average could be an indication that we are seeing a continuation into this lower level of liquidity, which is going to be that $86,000 region. And if we bring that 2023 fractal back up, which I'm not going to go ahead and do, but you can remember from the start of the video, that actually shows a potential target at that exact $86,000 region, telling us that both the fractal suggesting we could go down here, and of course the lowest point of support is going to be sitting at that point of confluence. I would not like to see Bitcoin drop below there. If we see Bitcoin drop below here, we see a massive VRPV gap, and this VRPV gap is essentially an area of lower historical resistance, which will increase bearish volatility and result in some pretty steep price corrections below 85,000. So 85, 86 is the lowest Bitcoin could go while remaining bullish on the higher time frame. If we drop below that level on the higher time frame, it's going to start to look very bad and very concerning. So pay close attention to that. Again, as you know, I sold my Bitcoin at 96,000. I bought Bitcoin at 16.5 to 18K. My average price is somewhere in the middle of there. I held the order up. I sold at 96,000. I rebought at 92,000 in leverage, and I sold those positions between 106.5 to 108,000. I flipped into altcoins probably around the 15th or so of November when the $840 billion level broke out, and I sold those at the same time I sold my Bitcoin around in this region. So we played this move absolutely perfectly. Now we are sitting sideline waiting to see what happens, particularly with Bitcoin under these levels. I can't stress how important this is, guys. For Bitcoin to enter an uptrend again, we need to see some sort of accumulation pattern develop. We need to see some sort of bearish exhaustion over here. We need to see these highs, these lower highs over here. We need to see these break. Okay, if we break above these levels, we establish these new lows and we continue upwards. But until then, it is not looking amazing. This is looking pretty weak. And as we know, December is never really a good month for Bitcoin and for cryptocurrency. We do generally see corrections for traditional assets and cryptocurrency in December. So you have to play this more cautiously, as I have been saying for the whole month, cautiously optimistic. So to summarize everything, guys, and to summarize my stance over here, I am bearish on Bitcoin while we remain below this diagonal uptrend. That is short-term bearish. I am still macro bullish. We'll come back to that point in a second. I'm short-term bearish on Bitcoin, meaning I do expect if we remain underneath the diagonal uptrend, we will see continuations into our lower areas of support, with the potential lowest area of support being 86,000. I do not think we're going to drop below here. If we do, it might be a scam week before we even reverse. And I do think next year could potentially be a bullish year for cryptocurrency and for Bitcoin. Now, I don't look at Jerome Powell's statement as, you know, the Holy Grail, as set in stone. Historically, they always flip up their biases. They are shaking up the market moving into the end of the year. In my opinion, they will continue to drop interest rates going into next year, and they will continue those interest rate drops for quite some time, which will facilitate continuations in the market when the market is ready. But for now, it does look like we are moving downwards. It does look like we are more risk off, and that is kind of expected moving into Christmas. So that is it, guys. So Bitcoin, not too much more to say over here. Let's move over to the daily chart. Again, the daily RSI has broken toward the downside. This is not a fantastic thing. We actually saw a test drop over here. We did not continue downwards. We have now fully lost this, indicating that daily momentum has flipped completely negative. We also do have this bearish divergence here on the daily RSI. This is a level we are also now going to be watching for the price action to flip back into the hand of the bulls. We need to see momentum flip back positive. So that may take some time. It might take some time for us to break back above this trend, but whenever we do break back above this diagonal trend line, in my eyes, that will be confirmation for Bitcoin to continue upwards aggressively on the higher time frames. That is it, guys, for Bitcoin. That is it for the altcoin market. Let's quickly jump over to the macro charts. So the macro charts, as we have said many times, okay, they are very lagging. If you want to predict tops, you have to do it on a smaller time frame. What happens on the smaller time frame and stays on the smaller time frame continuously compounds to the macro charts. The macro charts are lagging, but I'm seeing a lot of people saying this is the bear market, right? The bear market has started. And although I can see why people are thinking that, because we're seeing significant corrections, in fact, the short-term charts are starting to look bearish, objectively speaking, from a technical perspective, the bear market has not yet started. For us to see a bear market, we need to see a few things from a technical perspective. Number one, from a technical perspective, we need to see the Gaussian channel upper band and the leading span A of the Ichimoku cloud break toward the downside. Historically, when that happens, we see large corrections. And number two, from a policy perspective, we need to see a confirmation that we are going to actually move into a period where interest rates are not going to continue toward the downs, not going to continue to drop, okay? And that will shift policy, and we talked about in yesterday's video, perceived systematic risk drives market movements, okay, into a more risk-off and bearish macro outlook, okay? So at the moment, I'm still bullish on the macro for risk assets, but I do think we are going to see some downward movement for a bit. I do think it is natural that we flush a lot of this open interest and a lot of this built up leverage. We can see already, guys, $1 billion in liquidations already, which is insane. And Bitcoin is back to where it was like 8 days ago. We're seeing $1 billion in liquidations. It's truly insane how over leveraged the market is right now. So I think a bit of a correction on the short term. If we're able to reestablish and break through this high, I will expect continuations. And number two, again on the daily, if we're able to reclaim this trend line, I will be flipping bullish back on Bitcoin, expecting continuations potentially much higher, okay? But until then, I'm expecting corrections into these lower levels of support. And if we drop below this level, look at that gap we have. We would not want to see what happens if that gap potentially fills. Thanks for tuning in. Have a fantastic day. Catch you guys in the next video. See you then.